What would you really care about in the conflict? What do they want? What do they need? What are their concerns, hopes, and fears? If I asked you all, and you're not going to do this now, to write down on a piece of paper the 3 things that you care about most in life. Some of you might say your family. Some of you might say your education and your upbringing. And some of you may say something like, my home, where I call home. But what if I took one of those things away from you? And if I did take one of those things away from you, how long before the next one falls over? Because if I took your career away, because I took away your ability to do what you're gifted at, guess what? You're not going to be paid now. And guess what? Because you're not being paid, you're not going to live somewhere now. And when you don't live somewhere now, guess what the next domino is? You can't keep your kids anymore. They're going into foster care. And in this life where those dominoes begin to knock everything over, we have to understand that we are in the presence of people who've been stripped not just of their dignity, but of those 3 things that they possess. And you may think, why does this person care about this shopping cart full of old abandoned newspapers? That is literally all they have left. That is their godly, earthly possessions that they have. And they may not look too much to you, but just consider what it feels like when you're stripped of those things, and when you find yourself with a person who's basically raging mad because they lost those things, because now they don't have the one last thing they have. Understanding their concerns, hope, listening, that is the best thing you can do. That is the best thing you can do. And it sounds awfully disheartening because I wish I could tell you you could wave a magic wand, or I'm giving you all infinite credit cards to go out and buy people apartments, but we don't have those things. The listening goes over and over again. I can't say how much I love the Canadian dude and the gentleman who struggles with cocaine, because I keep playing over and over in my head for how to communicate with people. I realize the importance of this and this over this. I realize that assertiveness is different than aggressiveness, and that it's easy for me to show my emotions. It's easy for me to slap the table and go, fuck that! But it's also easy for me to say, wow, that must have been a struggle. I don't know what I would have done in your shoes. Wow, I commend you. I would not have responded like that. And that one feeds empathy, the other one feeds sympathy. And that there's a huge difference. I know it sounds awfully mundane, but that silly cartoon with the bear and the deer and the thing, it resonates with me for some weird reason. Understanding your emotions is clear because, again, I'm picking on Fred for a minute, but I've been where Fred's been. I've been where Fred's been, where I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like, there is no way I cannot believe I'm seeing this happen in front of me. But again, those things may take you to places where you find yourself doing silly things. I'm not going to talk about burnout, but I would argue that the 3 of you, in the work you've done, at some point lost your cell phone. I would argue that the 3 of you, somewhere in the work you've done, you accidentally lock your keys in your car. I would argue that somewhere you started showing up late for work. I would argue that somewhere in your lost thoughts, you found yourself making silly mistakes you wouldn't make if you weren't distracted by the things that you saw. And that's okay. But those are the things where your thermometer starts to tell you, I'm starting to fry. Like, I'm starting to lose my ability to handle these things. Brainstorming possible solutions is really key in that. I'll say it again, and this is probably the 182nd time I say this. We will never do this work alone. We will always do this in the eye of colleagues, whether they're RNs, LVNs, or even other CHWs. And in doing so, we have the benefit of knowing that a situation that may appear one way to me will appear different to Cyril. And if it does, guess what? Cyril and I can pull out and look at it together. And I'm so sorry I keep going into sports, right? Sports plays a really central part of it. I am Cyril's caddy. Cyril is out engaging people in the field, and I'm carrying the clubs for Cyril. But when Cyril asks me for the club because he wants to know what to do with this person, I'm telling Cyril, you know what? The wind is blowing. And instead of hitting it to the tree, you might want to hit it more towards the bunker. Because doing so is going to mean that the ball's going to get there a little bit faster. And I'm giving Cyril advice for how to navigate the situation because I may be picking up on something that Cyril didn't see. And I think it sounds weird. You want that next to you. You want more ears, you want more eyes, because those are the things that are going to help you solve problems, a way of solving problems and solutions. On top of that, I'll add a really weird element. If in that scenario where Fred's thermometer started to go up, had Fred been in the company of me or a colleague that's supporting Fred, Fred would have enough trust to say, hey Rudy, I'm passing it to you, handle it for the next 20 while I try to like cool down, walk around the block, have a coffee. Please don't start smoking, but have a cigarette and come back so I can take it over again. Side note, Anthony smokes like a fucking train. It breaks my heart. I used to,
The other Anthony.
yeah, I used to hide them from him. God, it pissed me off so much. Look for third-party mediators is weird because you may suddenly find yourself so stuck in the quicksand that now you actually need someone else who's not as emotionally stuck in that quicksand to come in and help pull you out of the situation. Any questions on these folks? Because I rushed to them rather quickly. Did you hear me say anything that sounded outlandish, wrong, outside of the scope of what we do, inappropriate? Cyril, what do we know about the streets outside right now? Are there people congregating at City Hall?